Tonight we're going to be working with Japanese watercolors and creating a mod, what I call a mod landscape. And I grew up a child of the 60s and 70s, and bell-bottom jeans, right, mini skirts, and Peter Max. So those were some of the influences for me when I was a kid growing up. And so I really love that mod style. I just love that like 1960s atomic um, style. And so I thought, last week when we did the crab, the beginning of the workshop was me showing on my computer how I go onto the Canva app. That's Canva, Canva.com, and I generate AI images. So for the whole mod landscape concept, I thought, let me go to AI and see what it's going to say. And of course, the funny thing is AI learns over time. So you can pull mod landscapes or retro landscapes or 60s landscapes and one day and pull them the next day, and you get completely different types of landscapes. So I had pulled some landscapes a couple of months ago, and I'll show you what those looked like. So these were some of my mod landscapes that I pulled several months ago from the Canva app. And so it has very much those bright colors and the swirly movement of the artist that I can think of the best is Peter Max had artwork that was similar to that. That's kind of what this is based on. And then here is some more. I love this one with the mountain right here and the way these swirl around. Very simple and yet like super cool looking. And so those are ones that I had pulled months ago. And then I went in yesterday, the day before, and I thought, oh, let me pull some more mod landscapes. Well, y'all, they're completely different, which is to be expected. But when I say completely different, I mean completely different. Here you go. So those sort of peachy, pinky, orangey, light blue colors, but look at the way these are put together. Completely different. I like them, but they're just a totally different concept. Here we go. Here's another set right here. So what I'll do is on the article that I write, every time I do a workshop, I then write an article on my website, deetzart.com. And I put that in the article. I'll add reference photos if they're not copyright photos. And these are AI images, so I can go ahead and put them up. I'll just note that they're made in Canva so that if you want to, you can go to Canva and create some of your own. But here's some more right here. Also in the video last week, when I was showing you how to generate these in the Canva app, I also mentioned at the same time that I then showed how to download them from Canva to your computer. And once they're downloaded on your computer, how to print them so that you'll get two per page like this. I use a format of 5 by 7, 5 inches by 7 inches landscape or square. And then I send it to my printer as a 5 by 7 image. And that way I can get two very cleanly on one page like this. And if you need more details and to actually see me doing it, go watch the crab video, the gouache crab video, where it says generate AI generated crab in the title. And there's another one. I really like this one. I like the shape of the trees in this one right here. Aren't they nutso? They're so crazy. And then I said Tuscan retro mod landscapes, right? Because Tuscan landscapes have those beautiful, tall, skinny trees in them usually, right? So these are what I got when I said, give me the Tuscan retro 70s or 60s. And so there are these beautiful tall trees right here. I love those. And then a landscape. The cool thing about these landscapes is they include little houses in them. So you see the little houses here, because often in a Tuscan landscape, that's Tuscany is in Italy. So, and it's in the wine region. So normally you'll see these rolling hills of grapevines, and then you'll see these little chateaus interspersed in there. So that's why they put the little houses in here. And I thought, oh, that's really cool. I like that. Here's another one with like a rainbow sun, but there are the little houses there. And so I thought, oh, that would be fun to incorporate that into an image as well. And then I, magic mushrooms, right? You got to have the magic mushrooms going. So I said 3 mushrooms in with the retro 70s mod landscape, right? And this is what it gave me. So it's so fun to play with the AI. So this is what it gave me from that. Were these fun shrooms. It didn't give me just the 3 mushrooms that I asked for. It gave me, a whole landscape of mushrooms. But I liked the concept of the mushrooms and the coloring of it. The psychedelic coloring. That's the for these, that was the style that I used was, and I talked about styles last week when we went through the AI image generation. And so this is the psychedelic style of mushrooms in a mod landscape. So there's another set right there. Aren't they fun? If you are as old as I am, then you probably remember fun images like this when you were in high school, like I did. And I kind of incorporated those together with an outline that I did, and I began coloring in. So we're going to do an outline together so you can see how I use these AI images and build an outline, as well as I have one that's already started, an image that's already started, and then I can show you, because sometimes you want to use multiple layers of paint. So you have to have one layer down there before you can put the next layer on, right? So I did already start one that I'll be able to show you adding more layers. Actually, let me show you that right now. So this one, the outline for it, it was outlined in pencil. You can see the pencil marks here. And so the outlines like this, see there are more outline images here. This outline is right now on my website. That's deetsart.com. You can find the reference for it under the events tab. So in the events tab on my website is where you can find future events, workshops. And if I have an outliner, I try to get the outliner up ahead of time and put it in the event so that you can look at it and print it out if there is an outliner already done. So this outliner, which are just the blank background with just the lines on it, is currently on the events tab for this workshop. Now, when I write the article later this week for this workshop, I will include this outline for you so that if you wanted to, you could print it out and use it for your reference, as well as some of these really cool, funky images. The Canva website also allows you to generate not just full color images like what I just showed you, but also they allow you to generate graphics. So I thought that I would include this in this workshop. You can always refer back to last week's workshop with the AI generated crab for the figuring out how to get into Canva and how to find the magic, it's called magic media within Canva. And that's where you can generate images. And last week we talked about the images part of it, of that app. This time I'm talking about the graphics section. So you can go into the graphics tab instead of the images tab, and then you can get artworks like this. So they are outlines or line drawings. They call it line art. So the style is line art. There are multiple styles, of course. You can get sketch style, you can get let's see, what was the doodle style? So I'm going to show you a doodle image and I'm going to show you a couple of line art images. So I wanted to show you, the difference here. This is the little menu and there it says Magic Media. And that's what this is, the Magic Media page on Canva. That's their AI generator. And then you want to move over to where it says graphics. And then you're going to select down underneath, you're going to you're going to type in a prompt. So where's my prompt? Right there, 1970s retro landscape. And then you're going to select your style and you're going to run that. And then you're going to get results similar to this. So here you go. This is a sheet. This is the doodle style. So there, graphic, black and white, right? And then this is the line art style. So it's more like you're creating an outliner for yourself. And then you can use that as a jumping off point for creating your own design. Here are a couple of other of the line art designs that came out using that graphic tab. I like this one a lot right here. I love that. So maybe we'll do that one as our drawing. We'll pull from that and put some mushrooms in it or do something like that. But that's how I get my images. Okay. Now, what materials are we going to be using? What supplies, what art supplies for this workshop? Well, first of all is paper. My favorite paper for doing these kind of workshops is the Canson XL watercolor paper. It's 40 pounds, so it's a nice heavy weight. It has a very light texture to the surface of it. Or if you prefer a smooth surface, you can work on the back. This is a little bit more smooth back here. It's not hot press, it's cold press. So cold press means there's a little surface texture. Hot press, they roll it through hot rollers, the paper, and then it's super smooth. You can use either one for this technique that we're going to be doing tonight. And then the paints that we're going to use are the Gansai Tambi Japanese Watercolors. So this is what the box looks like. And actually, this was the wrap that was around the box. And it's nice they show you what the colors are. Let's see, where does it say? It's by Kuretake, is the Japanese company that makes the Gansai Tambi. Gansai Tambi is a type of watercolor, type of Japanese watercolor, and this happens to be a Kuretake set. This is called the Art Deco set in terms of the colors there. And so this is what they look like. I have the cover on it so they don't fall out, but that's what they look like right there in this particular set. You'll notice in this set that there are a lot of light colored paints like this and this. That means, and this one, that means that they have lots of white in them. If they were transparent, they would look dark. So let me find a transparent one. This one right here is a transparent color. So it's super dark. That's because all of that pigment is concentrated in layers and it's transparent. So you're just seeing the darkness of the pigment. You're not seeing the contrast of the pigment against the white. So for instance, this one right here, this blue, azure blue, has a lot of white in it, as does these two pinks up here. So you need to, that's a consideration as we're painting about the colors that already have white in them. Now, sometimes I take the transparent colors and I add white to it in order to get the desired color that I want, but we'll be working with that as we go. Now, that is a full set of 24 from Kuretake, the Gansai Tambi. Now you can also buy smaller sets. So this was actually my mother's set. That's how long I've had it. My mother's been passed away for years, but this was my mother's set of Gansai Tambi Japanese paints, Japanese watercolors. So this is a basic set that you can find quite often. And I just made a swatch of it like this, but let me show you often in the lid. So you have to look for that. Often in the lid, they will give you an opportunity to put the colors in there so that you know what they are. But I usually like to store it inside the box like this when I'm working with it. So I like to have a separate little color chart next to it. Now, instead of a set, you can also buy, hello there, Gracie Fields, welcome in on Whatnot. Besides the sets, you can also buy individual, those big blocks are called pans. You can buy individual pans, and you can also buy, I bought all of these individually, meaning I chose each color. And then there's this cool little, this is a Gansai Tambi pick your own. And it's just, when you purchase it, there's no paint in it. It is just the empty, it's the little empty container here, the little empty plastic or paper container. And then you can fill it with any colors that you want. So I bought 12 more colors because, of course, until you have the full range of like 200, there's always something else to buy, right? So this is another set of colors that I purchased. Now, this one right here looks super dark. This one right here looks jewel tone, super light. This has a lot of white in it. This is actually a green, which is hard to see from there. It looks black almost, right? It looks black until you take some of the pigment out and put it on white paper, then you can see, but that's because it's more transparent. So transparent, semi-transparent, and opaque because of the amount of white that's in it. And then for each one of these that I custom made, I also made a little swatch card to go with it. So I know what the colors look like. But I love being able to customize just using these empties. Um, you can customize your own palette. So don't feel like you're stuck with the sets. Make your own sets. It's awesome. And if you ever are curious, you want to build, hey there, Critter Chops, welcome in, welcome in. He put a bunch of shamrocks because it's March, and so it's St. Patty's month, right? So welcome in, welcome in. But if you need help selecting colors, um, feel free to message me. So you can message me in messages on this video when it's saved to YouTube, or you can go in on Whatnot and send me a message if you have any questions at all and you'd like me to help you put together some colors or a palette if you want to choose your own instead of buying a set, or if you need advice on which set to buy. I am happy to help you. Nothing like, talking about color, right? And Critter Chops, who just came in a moment ago, he makes his own watercolors. So where these are Critter Chops, see how big these pans are? Have you seen these before? The Japanese watercolors? The pans are huge. I'm trying to take one out so that you can see. So massive, massive. It's like a double. I think it's a double of a full pan. Crazy. Lots and lots of paint in there. And then in the old set, it only had the Japanese name on the back. Let me see. This is the old set from my mother. It only had the Japanese name on the back. But nowadays, they have English and Japanese and what? Chinese, right? Yeah. English, Japanese, and Chinese on the back there. So, woohoo! Love that. And yeah, it says made in Japan. But that's a massive, massive pan. There's a lot of paint comes in there. But you'll find when you're working with it, because a lot of it is semi-opaque or opaque, that you tend to use more of it than you do when you're working with transparent watercolors. So, this size pan is perfectly appropriate for working with the Gansai Tambi paints. Now, another thing we're going to be using, of course, is paint brushes. So I'll be working with the Princeton Velvet Touch brushes. My favorite are the number 10 and the number 6. Yep, these two right here. They have, these are what they call the long round. So what they mean is the hairs are long. It's a round brush and it has this really pointy, snappy tip. So that's why I like these. It is an artificial, it's not natural hair. And they're mixed media, so you can use them for different different mediums. That means watercolor, gouache, acrylics. I try, if I use them with oils, I try not to go backwards and use them with the water-based media if I use them with oil paints. I like to have a separate set of brushes for oil paints than I do for all of my water-based media, the watercolors, the gouache, and the acrylics. That's just me. If you put them in hot water and you agitated them with the soap, you could probably get that oil out of there. But I explained before that these synthetic hairs often will have a little tiny capillary, little tiny hole down the middle of it. That's how it can hold, this little brush can hold so much paint and water. And when you're using oil paint, the oil gets down inside those little capillaries. It's very difficult to get out. That's why if you're using a synthetic brush, Mm. It's I don't like going backwards from oil to back to my water media with my brushes. Okay, so those are the Princeton Velvet Touch. This is the brush that I use for making corrections. So if paint goes where I don't want it, like paint flies when you're painting, right? In my studio. So often I get little dots in places that I didn't want it. And this is the Velvet Touch from Princeton, also Willow's Blender. And I will have these linked. These supplies will be linked in the description of the video on YouTube. Or you can always pop over to my website, which is deetzart.com. So there you go here, my website, deetzart.com. And over on my website, there is um, a menu item that says supply links. So you can find links to these items in the supply links on my website anytime. But later tonight, I'll go back in and I'll put the links to all of these items in the description of the video on YouTube for you. Okay. Uh, this is my favorite water container for my studio because it has a tulip edge. You see that right there? So these brushes sit on the tulip edge like that. Fantastic. So I can fit multiple brushes on here. Usually when I'm doing a painting session, I can fit up to 3 brushes across here as I'm working. And I love that. Plus it collapses. It's a collapsible. You can press it and then it's flat. And that's what I take with me when I travel. So it's a collapsible travel brush, water holder and brush holder. And then these, when I'm working with watercolors, I love these. These are, you might have seen before, a large butcher tray. I have the large butcher tray for putting paints in and doing my color mixing. But recently I discovered from St. Louis Art Supply these little ones. So you see here, oh, these are awesome for doing quick color mixing in. And then because they are the enamel, it's super easy to just spray it with water and wipe it out with a paper towel and on you go to your next set of colors. I am definitely in love with these. A new product that just showed up not too long ago. Okay, let me see. Yes, Michael Walker says whether they're artificial, I'm reading off of YouTube, whether they, and it's Michael Wilbur, I'm sorry, artificial and natural, keep oil brushes separate from acrylics and watercolors. See, there you go. Advice not just from me. Other folks out there who feel the same way. Oh, hold on a second there. Okay, but thank you for that message, Michael. I appreciate it. Let's see, what else are we going to be using? The nice thing about this workshop is very simple supplies. We don't have lots of supplies. Oh, one other thing that we may get to, we may not, but I wanted to show it to you is opaque white. So this is the Copic. The company is called Copic, opaque white. This, so that when you're done with your work, if you want to go back in and add the white back in on top, you can either use white gouache. So last week we were using gouache paint. You can use white gouache. But sometimes I find that when you use the white gouache, it still reactivates the paint and has the paint come back up through. And that's called bleed. The color from underneath bleeds back through. So this opaque white from Copic, and I'll show you the applicator, super cool. Look at this little teeny tiny applicator. Isn't that awesome? So you can just, do dots or little lines or something like that. Love this one. And then the one that most illustrators use. So illustrators are using gouache. That's the opaque watercolors. And then they're using watercolors. And so this, notice it says on it, bleed proof white. So it is designed specifically to go on over top of those water media and have it not bleed back through the layer of white. And this is by Dr. P.H. Martin. So I definitely keep this in my studio at all times if I need to go back and put more white in. What I do when I use these with the little one is I shake it. And with this one, the bleed proof white, I use a stick or the back end of my brush. Let's say I might have a brush. I use the back end of the brush and I make sure it's well mixed before I use it. So those are a few other supplies that we may or may not end up using, but I wanted you to be aware of them because these are phenomenal for going back in afterwards when everything's dry and just dropping in little white dots or putting white in areas. Okay, so we are going to go ahead over top of the table and get started with drawing and painting. So fun. So these are the places where you can find me all over the internet, as you were saying, Isadora. I've got my Instagram, Facebook, website, my Etsy store. Okay, so let's see where we are. I want to be sure I've got plenty of that you're in view. Oh, yeah, this is sitting in here because this is on Thursday. I did a video with an atelier train on whatnot, and it was how to color mix with the Pebeo Origin acrylics. And that's a little painting that I did after the workshop with the paint that we mixed during the session. So that session is live in the under the live tab on my YouTube. If you missed it and you want to go back and watch it, if you have a question about, hey, how do you mix acrylic paints? I'll get over it. So we are going to start. This is the watercolor paper. This is the Canson XL that I showed you earlier. Here, let me just show you again. Canson XL, 140 pound, 9 by 12. I usually work on the 9 by 12, and then that 9 by 12 will pop into an 11 by 14 mat. So here's an 11 by 14 mat, and your image will fit right into that 11 by 14 mat if you work on the 9 by 12. So that's why I use the 9 by 12 often. Now there's, besides the, I said the cold press, let me see if I can put my hands on the hot press watercolor. So this happens to be an 11 by 14. It's a little bit bigger, but it's by the Fabriano company, Italian, made in Italy. And you see right here, it says hot press. So the hot press means that it's smooth. It's still watercolor paper, still 140 pounds, excellent paper. But if you prefer a smooth surface to that textured surface, this is the paper that I recommend for you here. I need to get myself a pad in 9 by 12 because this 11 by 14 is a little too big on camera. And I'm like, dang, I need the 9 by 12. Oh, because it fits more easily onto the camera for y'all. Okay, so we are going to use a pencil. This is my Blackwing pencil. So I don't know if you can see that where it says Blackwing. Can you show that again, please? Yes, of course, Isadora. I assume you're talking about the Fabriano paper. So there you go, Fabriano. In the video, I will be linking it in the description of the video later tonight. So if you look back at the video tomorrow, you'll see the link to where you can get this paper. But that is the Fabriano. They call it Studio Watercolor, 140 pounds. Now this is a 25% cotton. Can you see that right there? It says 25% cotton. So this at 25% cotton and this Canson XL, which they don't even tell you what the percent cotton is, even if there's any in it or not. They are, to me, excellent for when you are in your studio and you are playing. When I get ready to do like serious artwork, then I use a paper similar to this. So this is a piece that I have in process right now. Ooh, you're getting a little sneak peek, but this is a larger format paper that'll fit in a 16 by 12 mat, much larger. And I'm using some textured acrylic paint, some of that origin paint. I didn't like some of the colors, so I'm going to be reworking it. But this paper, oh my gosh, this paper, y'all. This is Magnani paper, also from Italy, but Magnani 1404. It's the Firenze acrylic paper. And right here, 100% cotton. You see that? So when you're ready to do a final professional artwork and go bigger in size, I highly recommend that you get yourself the 100% cotton paper. There's 100% cotton paper available for acrylics, and there's 100% cotton paper available for watercolors. And there's even the arches. Some people call it arches. The French call it arche. The arches paper, which I have a pad sitting here somewhere, um, is 100% cotton, and they make an oil paper. So the you can get Arches paper for oil painting that's 100% cotton. Okay, so Isidora said, why? Why would you want the 100% cotton? And why would it, why would you want the 100% cotton for your final artwork? And the reason for that, thank you for the question, is that uh, these papers, like this Canson XL, are a cellulose paper. That means that a portion of the paper comes from trees instead of cotton. And so what happens is paper that comes from trees, even though it's buffered, meaning they've added chemicals to it to be sure that it's acid free, so that you won't have a problem with acid burn in your artwork over time, it still will break down faster than a piece that's done on 100% cotton paper. That's one reason. Another reason is that the the sizing, all of these watercolor papers have something in them called sizing, because I've made paper before for myself, like done paper making, but I didn't put any sizing in with my handmade paper. And what happens is when you put water on it, when you put your paint with water, it just soaks right in and oftentimes will soak through to the back. So sizing is added to the papers to cause the water and the pigment to stay on top of the paper and allows you to slosh it around and get that beautiful blooming that you might want with water. And so that's what sizing is. And this has sizing, as well as your 100% cotton paper has sizing. But the 100% cotton paper, that paper is going to last. If you're looking for museum quality, the 100% paper is going to last just like fabric would. So imagine that you had fabric, because that's what it is. It's literally, they take cotton fabric and it's called cotton rag paper. Sometimes you see the word rag and you're like, what the heck is rag? Well, they literally take rag, like t-shirts and stuff, and they pulverize it. They pull the fibers apart and they make paper out of it. I have some here, actually. Let me show you one. I love this paper. So this is handmade decollage paper here, and it's made from cotton rag. Awesome. And then it has sizing in it. They add sizing into the slosh of water and cotton fibers. Isn't that awesome? The paper's fabulous. Fabulous. I love painting on this paper. Is that easy to make? You should show it in the atelier. Nope, it's not easy to make. I mean, it is easy to make, but I've never made paper with sizing. I've only made paper without sizing. So you can buy, and good question, because you can buy something called a liquid size for your watercolor papers. So if you handmade papers yourself and you wanted to brush a sizing on so that your paints would sit on top and not just soak right in like mine did, then I discovered that after having made my paper, then I learned about sizing and I realized that you can buy sizing and you can paint the sizing onto your paper so it seals it, but still allows you to do all the fun things that you would normally do with watercolor. Okay, so anyway, I leave the paper making to other more professional people, and I just buy the beautiful paper that they make for us. Okay, so let's pick one of the images or two images or three images. What I like to do is I like to what's called synergize images. So yes, you can use these images directly. I can take this image, transfer it onto here, and then paint it. This is an AI image. It's an image that nobody owns. Okay. It was computer generated in the moment, and the computer will never generate that exact image again. However, the the computers learn from other people's images. So the AI is learning from your artwork, my artwork, any artwork that we post online. So in order to be safe and not be copying somebody else's artwork, I like to take elements of multiple images in order to build my images and not do this exact straight image. Now, if you're practicing, let's say that you're in your sketchbook and you're practicing, perfectly fine. Take this image exactly as it is, transfer it into your notebook, and then go for it. Um, However, when I'm making artwork from that I'm going to want to sell, I synergize. So I'll look at the elements here, I'll look at the elements here. I'll go into maybe some of the ones that have color on them. I'll look at some of these elements. I love the mushrooms, right? So I've got to have a mushroom in there. Let me grab my mushrooms back here. So here are some of the mushrooms, right? And so I synergize. That means as an artist, I look at multiple reference images and then I build a design from that. That's the way I prefer to do it. That way you don't have to worry about stepping on anybody's toes if something here looks too much like an artist's work, right? I even, when I was on the AI and I said, I used Peter Max, who's a famous artist during the 1960s and 70s. I put his name in as a reference, seeing if it would generate artwork like Peter Max. And guess what it said? You can't do that. You can't directly tell it that you want artwork that looks like another Woodstock. Oh, that's a good one, Scott Sue. Thank you. Woodstock. I'm going to write that down on here. Woodstock. Good one. And as a keyword, a word, Peter Max. Yes. So I put Peter Max in. Oh, you have MSXX. I don't know. I put Peter Max and it came back and said I couldn't use that as a search term. So I just wanted to make you aware of that, that you have to be a little more descriptive and not specific. Um, oh, Isidora said, what's Woodstock? Woodstock. What year was that? 1967, was it? Something like that. During the Vietnam War, there was a lot of protest around the war. And was not Jimi Hendrix, Jimmy from the Doors. I think the Doors were there and some other bands of the time. He did both the original and the 99 one. Really? Oh, that's awesome. So Woodstock is a location. Oh, Hendrix. I love Jimi Hendrix. Gosh, amazing. Um, so Woodstock is a concert, right? The concert thing. It was a location in where New York, right? And then it was a big field and they had a concert there. And what? Scott says he was at the original. That's amazing. So you're like my age or so. Or you're about maybe just a little bit older than me. Mm, excuse me, we have to stay hydrated here, right? Yes, so you probably remember, Scott, the artworks like this and the really fun, psychedelic, colorful stuff that I absolutely adore. And so that's what I thought we'd do tonight using Oh, you were at the 1999 one. Okay, okay. You get off then. So let's take some of these elements and do a sketch. And so this is what I do. I really like I like these trees. See how simple they are there. I love where everyone, what is that, rioted? Is that what you were trying to say? Oh, yikes. Ah, kind of crazy, right? Kind of crazy. Um, I like nowadays I prefer to just watch those things on demand, than be there. Oh, we've gotten soft, haven't we? So see the shape here of this tall tree? That's like the Tuscany, right? Let me see where one of the Tuscany images is. See the Tuscany image here with those tall trees. Love that. I also asked it to put a fig tree in the foreground and it gave me this one right here. So, as you refine what you're asking the AI, it'll do different things for you. And so I was like, that doesn't really look like a fig tree. Kind of not. But it was a good idea to throw that out there, right? So let's keep some of these ideas in mind. These are so pretty. And I like the idea of the sun or the moon. And I love where they have all of these rays of different colors coming out from the sun. So let's use that element. And then there's something else about see how these clouds are like but they're kind of all in a straight line. I think that's really cool too. So let's do something where we have the mountains here. And so we're going to do a mountain over here that kind of goes like this. There's another mountain that comes in this way. And then, uh, oops, that doesn't go up. So I'm looking at various images and this actually comes out and goes down here and then comes around and then there's another little peak and then there we go. So I'm kind of building the background similar to this one right here. And then we're going to add some of these funky clouds. We'll have one of these tree elements in there. Okay, sorry that it's off camera. Let me see if I can move some things and then you can see the images that I'm working from. So I'm moving the water out of the way. Don't spill it. There we go. So I'm doing this one and the one that's a little bit off the camera there. There you go. That's a little better. And this one right here. So a little bit of all these different ones here. Let's see. This one is it's kind of cool where it goes out and then sort of along like this. And then there's another one comes up and goes down there. And then there's another one that comes up here. There we go. So just something simple for my background there. And then um, let's put the sun in. Now you'll notice here that the sun is off to the one side. You notice here the sun is off to one side. But in this one, the sun is, well, it's slightly off to that side. So yes, you can put it in the center, but from an aesthetic standpoint, it's usually better if it goes off to one side or the other. Okay. Yeah, you can put it in the middle. If that blows your hair back, put it in the middle. Um, and what I'm doing is I'm just using a light touch with my pencil. That way it's super easy to erase. If I go, oh, that's not quite right, I can easily erase it because I'm just using a light touch with the pencil. Okay. It may be hard for you to say, hey, escaping reality, welcome in, welcome in. It may be hard for you to see on camera right now. But there's plenty of pencil there for me to follow. And normally when I'm doing an outliner for y'all, I will do this light sketching so I can easily erase. And then once I get an image that I'm happy with, I'll go in with one of these Micron pens or a Sharpie and darken the lines and then take a picture of it for y'all so that we get something that's more like this. that came out of the AI. Let's put the sun in there. So let's say that the sun is right here. Oops, not such a good circle. Not bad. Okay, so there's the sun. And then so you can kind of see how it is here too. And then I really like, let's do a couple of rays out here. Right, because Peter Max would have that, wouldn't he? He'd have that like crazy sun rays out there. So it looks like you do some of them like that, and then you need to do some of them over this way in order to get it to work right. Okay. So we're just lightly putting, oops, that wasn't quite right, was it? And then let's go over, oh, you can see as I get to the other side, when I'm on this side, I need them angled up a little bit. When I'm on this side, I need them angled down a little bit. Let me show you. So over here, they go almost straight up, and then they start angling off this way, and these start angling off that way. Can you see that? So that's what I'm trying to draw here. So this one that I angled that direction, it's like, no, it doesn't go like that. It comes over here and it sort of angles like that. So there's something. And then I want these funky, fluffy clouds. Now, another thing that's really cool about art from that period of time, let me see if I can find it, is the clouds that are flat on the bottom. Have you seen those? So you see this one right here, how it's flat on the bottom, and then they put that up at the top. I really like that. So let's do some clouds where they're flat, and then as they come up, then you get the, right? And that's a cloud. And then let's put another cloud over here and do the same thing, come up. I like those. I like clouds that are that style where they're flat on the bottom and then they have the wavy at the top. I think that's kind of fun. And let's just put one more over here. So this is how I build my designs. Let's actually, there we go. There's another one. And then we'll put another one up here. Fluffy, fluffy, fluffy cloud. There you go. So now you have some clouds. You got some mountains. I don't like the way the second half of that is going. So I'm going to change that just a little bit, which is easy peasy because I'm just using a very light touch with my pencil. Okay, what do we want for the foreground? I love this where it looks like there's a sort of a windy road there. And so I'm going to, here's another example of that. See here, where you've got sort of a road that winds down in there with multiple stripes. Here's another one where it's stripy along there. Isn't that fun? So let's see, in this area then, I'm going to follow something like this one, partly. The nice thing about putting two 5x7s on one sheet of printer paper is you can fold it in half like this, and then it's easy to work from this one or this one. Is that fun? Easy, easy. So now I've got this one isolated, and I'm going to bring this around and then like this. And then I'm going to bring this one around and like this. Like that. Okay, so now we've got a road. We have a road in there. Okay, so I'm getting some messages over on YouTube that have nothing to do with the art workshop. So bye-bye. I don't have a mod over on YouTube, so I keep an eye on the folks who are making comments, and if they don't have to do with the subject at hand, then they are out of there. Okay, so I like where the you get the different sort of stripes here along the roads. So let's do some more of those. You, it's not straight. Come on, I can do it. I can do it. I know I just had some coffee, but still. There we go. Let's make a wide one right here and then bring that in. Bring it in like that. That's the fun of it. You can just draw these different the shapes that are interesting to you, right? So I am trying to put a little more of the color on here from the pencil so that you can see it a little bit more easily. And then one more. Why don't I make this one sort of close to this side? And like that. So this is to give me a guide. So when you're painting with watercolor, it is helpful to have a guide, a pencil line as a guide or some sort of design. If let's say that I did this pencil design and then I want to save it, I can take a picture of it, print out the picture, and then I can use something called transfer paper. And I can put the transfer paper underneath the computer paper like this. I'll show you because this has lines on it, right? So I can show you how I do that. Where is it? See, I always keep my transfer paper handy. So this is what transfer paper looks like. It has some sort of color on this side. This one happens to be graphite, but it comes in all different kinds of colors. And I even have a big old roll of it right here. Carbon, yeah. So here's a big roll right here. This is Jack Richardson. I think it's 2 feet. Is it 2 feet? I think it's 2 feet, 24 inches wide. That's so you can, of course, transfer large images on large papers, or you can just cut pieces off like I do. This is my favorite one is the Jack Richardson because it leaves a very light line. And so it's easier to erase if you go, oh, I want to modify it, then you can erase it. But what you do, let's do one of these trees right here. I'm going to take this image and I'm going to put this down. And then I'm going to put this, let's say that I want to do one of these trees and I can just go over it with a pencil or a pen. You do need to press down somewhat because you're going through a couple of layers, okay? So I love these Tuscan style trees from the Italian landscape. So yeah, I am pressing somewhat hard. And let's see where it is. I'm holding everything down. I'll lift it up. And there it is, right there. So it's on the road. I don't want it on the road, but that's okay. Let's do one of these other ones over here, like this little one right here. So I'm pressing pretty well with my pencil. Normally I'll use a pen. I like the ballpoint pen when it goes over it. And then like this, there it is. So that's how you can do your transfer. So I'll bring it up closer so you can see it. Can you see that? But it's just graphite. This is graphite on the back of this. Because you had mentioned Isidora carbon, but with carbon, if you use carbon paper, it is so dark that you can't get it all up with an eraser. So that's why I like to use the graphite transfer paper. Or there's a company, not the Richardson company, another company called Soral, and they make different colors. So when I'm working on black paper or brown paper, I use the white. So you see here, one side comes off onto your dark papers, but this is the sampler set, transfer paper sampler. And so it's got the white, it has the graphite, it has yellow, blue, and red. So depending on what it is that you are transferring onto, you have these various colors available to you. And they work great. They're awesome. That's why they're right next to me in my studio. And I was able to grab them with no hesitation, right? Hold on one second. Let me get those put back into my shelf so that my studio stays somewhat in order. Okay, what I'm gonna do is just erase the base of this right here. There we go. It's still leaving a tiny bit of still left just a tiny bit there because you can see I was pressing hard. You see how the line is kind of darker. Um, where here I was pressing a little bit more lightly. So that's how you can transfer images from one of these. Now, why don't can we put one of these little houses, one of these little chateaus, not quite as complicated as they show them, just something like this or something like this. Can you see those? Um, I don't need to do anything quite too crazy there. Okay, so let's see. Where do I want to put it? Let me do this coming down like that and figure out where I want to put the chateau. Maybe the chateau, maybe this goes off sort of rolling into the distance there. Nope, that's not a good place. Hold on. I'm going to do it a little more like this. And then I'm going to put the chateau over here and the chateau. So I can use this image as a reference for drawing the little house. So I've got the roof and a side there and a side there, a little window. This comes up, this comes over. There's the other side of the house right there. This goes back. And then one of them has a little chimney that's so cute. So I'm going to put a little chimney on it. Couple of, let's do this. Couple of windows right there, right there. Right. So there's just a little chateau. And then what they do is they put a couple of fluffy plants around it. Mm. I'll just do one of these trees over here. So I can actually just do the kind that go up tall like that. And a couple more. Oh, I like when they go skinny at the top like these. And I wasn't doing that. What am I doing? What am I doing? There we go. Those are good. So something like that, right? So I've got a little chateau there in my scene. Now we want some mushrooms, right? Right. I love the mushrooms. So let's do mushrooms. And so these are the reference photos for the mushrooms. They're kind of large, but that's okay. Um, we'll just use the idea behind them, right? And so let's come down here and we have a nice area over here. We can put a few mushrooms, right? So let's see, what do they look like? What do they look like? We're going to assume these are closer to us. So let's just put the base of it down here like that. And then these are really giant mushrooms, right? So we're just building that part of it. And then we're going to bring this up. Oh, that one is too wonky. So let's just bring this down here like that. Nope, even that's wrong. Thank goodness for erasers. That's all I can say. Um, let's bring this like this, and then like that, and then like that, and then like that. There, that's more like it. I'm looking at this big one right here. So it'll be very funky. And there are lines. This goes like this. So it follows the same curve essentially. And then we've got these things that radiate out, right, from the mushroom. And like that. And like that. There we go. So that's just an idea of the mushroom right there. Right? So there's a little mushroom. Let's just put a couple little ones down below it, down here. That's the main one. And I'm just gonna bring one that comes out here like this. And some of the mushrooms have a little, and then I'll go like that. Come down, it comes out. Kind of like that. And then here we've got, it comes like this. Oops, comes like this. How does it come? There we go. I've got lots of lines going there, y'all. Okay, here we go. And I can just fix that. It has like a kind of a hi hat. That one has a hi hat on it. Okay, so just a couple of mushrooms there. Maybe one more, one more. Just a simple one. Also coming out this way. And it's just gonna go. And that's gonna just, we're not gonna see the inside of this one. There we go. Very simple. You don't have to get complicated. Simple is fun. Now, these mushrooms have see all these spots on the mushrooms? The nice thing is you can work with those spots after everything is dry. You can either lift some of the color back off using a paintbrush. You can just put little dots of water on it, and then I will lay a paper towel over top of it, and that'll lift some of the color off. Um, or you can use a pen or one of these to put some white on there. So there are a couple of different things that you can do. I usually will leave those to the end. I don't worry about them at this stage, but you could, if you were working more in a more large format, you absolutely could put those circles in there. There we go. That's a little bit better. Hey, okay. Let's get rid of those and let's talk about the paint. Let's go to the paint. The paint, that's the most fun part, right? So I'm going to keep these close at hand, kind of as a reference for my colors. Where's one of the ones that has yeah, this, to just sort of have an idea of what it is. You can see there's a little bit of a difference between when I first pulled them on the computer like this and when I pulled them recently like this. It just different. Okay, so with these Gansai Tambi watercolors, and I'm going to keep these trays close at hand so I can mix colors, but we are going to be working. This is the Art Nouveau set from Kuretake. And the thing about the this set is a lot of the colors have white in them. I had mentioned earlier. So this has white in it. 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 All these have white in it. This has white in it. And I mention that because the colors are a little bit more muted. They're not super bright because they have a lot of white in them, as well as the colors are just some of the colors that they selected for this Art Nouveau set are a little more muted. So I purchased, because I was like, I need some bright colors. So I purchased these bright colors. Like I love this malachite, but there's a lot of white in that, some white in this, lots of white in that. This is like a flesh tone. This one's nice because it has sort of a cranberry look. So you pop some white in there and you get pinks. And then this is a nice bold yellow that you can see will go really well with those. So this is definitely one that I want to use. Now the set that came with the original set of 12 that my mother had, um, there are, most of them are um, transparent colors. This one has some white in it. And then the nice thing about this set is there is a white. So you can see I've already been playing with it, and I just was mixing with some blue on my brush there on the white. But this one, this pan is a white pan, and you can buy the white pan just by itself if you need the white pan. So I have plenty of water here, and I'm going to put my colors next to me so that I'm ready to paint. Let's see here. I like to put the color swatches close to the paint so I can see what the colors are. It's going to be off camera, but trust me, right next to where that those paints are, this is the order that the paints go in inside the little box. So I can reference them very easily. I do have swatches for these paints as well. They're just in a different place, so I didn't get them out. And then this one, see how I said if a color looks black almost, this one, that means that there's not so much white in it. So this color right here is this purple right here. So when you add water to it, you get that beautiful purple. And then of course, this one has a lot of white in it. It's purple with white, so it looks like lilac right there. And then the next one over almost looks black, but it's turquoise. This one is horizon blue, but it looks super light here, right? When we add the water. And then this one looks quite dark, but it has this, it looks like an ultramarine blue color. And then this one on the end that almost looks black is umber, so a very brown color. We're not going to be using that today, but we are probably going to use some of the turquoise and some of this purple, maybe some of the lilac. All right. I'm going to keep this close at hand so I can see the colors, because these dark ones, it's not always easy to understand what the color is there. All right. And this one, I have my swatch here. So I will keep that close at hand as well so I can see it. All right. And let's get one of our brushes. Now for this size of paper, I tend to use the size 6 brush because that lets me get into small spaces. If I'm working on a larger paper like the one that I showed you a minute ago that I was doing the acrylic on, I would use larger brushes for that one. So I always start by getting my brush wet, and then I'm going to take a paper towel, which I just had a couple in my lap, which means that they fell on the floor, didn't they? Yep. Hold on a second here. Okay. There we go. So let's go ahead then, and we can start now. Just because this whole area doesn't have any lines on it, it doesn't mean that, you know, I could do variations of colors. I certainly could. So let me, what are we going to start with? The sun right here. And it looks like they have a pale color in the middle. So I have 2 yellows. I have a pale yellow right here, like a lemon yellow. And then I have a deeper yellow right here. So I think I will start with the pale yellow, like a citron lemon yellow in the center, like that. And so I'll put this here. Lemon yellow. Let's do, oh, bright. It's like a neon, isn't it? Wow. It's like neon yellow. Wakey, wakey. That's the kind of yellow we have there. Okay. And then I'm going to just barely clean off my brush, not too much, because I'm going into another yellow. And then I'll grab the darker yellow, more like a sunflower yellow, right? And then I'll put that around the outside here. So I can just, once I have my design on there, then it's just making color decisions, because the shape decisions I've already made, right? There we go. Oh, so now I've got a light color in the middle and I've got a darker color around the outside. Easy peasy. These Gansai Tambi paints reactivate pretty quickly with water. If you wanted to get them more juicy, then you could just spray it with water. So I always have a spray bottle right here, and I can just spray over my paints, and that will make them begin to activate. and come out more easily. Okay, I can see from the image over top that you can see a distinct difference between the bright yellow and the darker yellow. Now, if you wanted to not have that line around it, this is just water on my brush. So I can go in with just water on my brush and feather that edge where the two colors meet just with water. And then that way they'll blend together and I won't have a hard line. It's up to you though. Sometimes you want that hard line in between. But if you want to feather it, you do it like that. Now notice when I'm dipping my brush, I'm cleaning off the brush. I don't want too much water. I don't want it to be sopping wet because I want to pick up lots of beautiful color. Okay, so now I'm not going to work on the things that are touching this sun right now, because if I do, and that paint touches this paint, which is still pretty much wet, it will bleed, which depending on what you're creating, you might want that bleed, but right now I know that I don't want the bleed right there. What I want to do is maybe work on these clouds over here. So I want those clouds to be pink. So I've got there's a coral pink, a potter's pink, a coral pink, and a pale pink in the set, as well as an alizarin crimson that doesn't look like any alizarin crimson you're used to out of the tube. It's much more, what do you call it? Muted, right? But I want my clouds to be this bright pink. So I'm going to reach into there. Note that because there's, that white in there, when it dries, it's going to dry a little bit darker. Now I've got my finger up so I don't stick my hand in in the sun right there. Yeah, because I'm very famous for sticking my hands in my paint. Okay, cool. So pretty. Love the little pinky clouds because we're going to make the sky that turquoise. But we could make the sky orange or purple or green, whatever color we want. Ooh, actually, there's a beautiful green. This malachite green is gorgeous. Maybe we'll make the sky malachite green because I saw some of the artificial intelligence images had that really cool malachite color as the background. Okay. Now, what I notice when I paint with these, similar to other watercolors, is that the first pass, you can kind of see the texture and the paper back behind it. So if you like your colors to be more dense, you're going to go back over them with a second coat. Okay. In this case, I'm just quickly doing one coat. So what I like about these Velvet Touch brushes with the long round head is they have a snappy tip. So there's like super fine tip right there that makes it really easy to do the edges. A brush that has a more rounded tip, it's not very easy to get at these direct lines like this. Mo better, way, way, way better with these. There we go. That's the next one. Oh, it's so cute. Pink fluffy clouds. Nice. And get more water. Oh, I want to get these clouds in so that I can they can be drying while we do something else. And then when we put the sky in, they'll be dry. If the clouds are dry when you put the sky in, then the sky is less likely to bleed into the clouds, which if you've got a lot of water on your brush, oftentimes they'll just bleed right in. Okay, now I've got a couple of instances here where I'm going over the line, which is fine. It's okay. Some people don't like the line to show when they're doing their artwork. And I'm like, look, the thing is, the line, it's you, it's me, it's us, it's our creative process. It's okay. It's okay if the lines show. But I know a lot of people don't like that when the lines show. So before starting your painting, you would go in with your eraser and you would erase most of the line so that only a little bit of the line shows. And that way, as you're painting it, you're less likely to see the lines. So some people like to do that. Oh, this pink just makes me happy. I love the fact that this particular pink looks really cute right out of the pan. But if I wanted to mix pink, which I did earlier for the other work that I was doing, I used this cranberry color. Let me show you what it looks like here. I used the cranberry and the white. So this white over here, and I got a nice pink using that as well. Ah, I'm getting it on my coffee cup, which is normal. Anything that's near me is going to end up with paint all over it, right? Okay, there we go. Fab. So now, like this mountain right here, I would not do until this cloud and that sun are dry, because otherwise they could bleed. There we go, nice. Now again, see those pencil lines showing? So that's only one coat of the pink. If I come back and I put a second coat of pink on, and because the pink has a lot of white in it, right? Then oftentimes I can mask those lines with multiple layers of the paint. And I kind of messed up there. So I'm just going to make it, part of the design, right? A mess up becomes part of the design. It's that simple. Okay, let's do the little house down here. And the little house has kind of a rustic roof. So you see what we have here. We have some beautiful, again, this is the Art Deco set. So we have some beautiful colors here and here that are kind of muted, that are good for that kind of thing. So let's take the Venetian red, which is fabulous. We'll take the Venetian red here and we'll put that on the roof, right? So let's do the roof here. Ooh, it's not as red as I want it to be. Okay. Not as red as I want it to be. So let's do this. I use one of my pans and I'm going to put some of the Venetian red in there. You see how it's almost brown? Bleh, bleh. Since I don't have my swatches with me, I didn't realize it was going to come out so dark brown. It's okay. We're going to pick up some of the color and then we'll grab the vermilion here, which is a kind of a cross between a red and a yellow, right? And we'll mix those two together. There. Now that's more acceptable to me. It's like a brown, but it has that beautiful orange red tone to it. So let's see if we can make this change. You can do it. Come on. I'm going to lift up a lot of that color. Now, if you, like, I'm just using a brush that is mostly dry and with water in it. And that's allowing me to lift that color back out. Hey there, gonorrhea chickens. Interesting name. Do you have chickens? Okay, more vermilion. Let's go with more vermilion. There we go. Oh, yes. And then I'm going to put a little bit here too. So we've got it here. We've got it here. And we've got to get it on the chimney as well. There we are. And then the side of the house, I can do the what they call Mars yellow right here. Let's see what that does for us. Here, I'm gonna, not enough contrast. Contrast. I need a little more yellow with that. So let's put that in there. And what can I take for, let's use some of this yellow. I use this yellow a lot for mixing. That's better. Aren't these awesome? Ah, they're so great. I love them. Okay, that's better. The side of the house there. So if a color doesn't come out of the pan exactly the way you want it, have some sort of maybe you can use a ceramic dish. I buy my ceramic dishes at my church for like 50 cents or 25 cents, a dollar. And I actually have gotten artist palettes at the church that they were just selling as 25-cent plates. So I was like, yes, please, I'll take all of those. So I took all of their palette plates from the church for 25 cents each. That was awesome. All right, so we have our little chateau. Now, what I like to do is I like to do the artwork and then come back with my marker pens. So I'll use my various colors here. These are the Signo roller balls. They have an awesome gold color. They have the white color. I love this like burgundy pink. There's a copper right there that looks awesome, and a red and a green. And a black. There are 10 colors of these. There's a 10 color set you can get. So I'll be sure that I can go ahead and link that in the description of the video. That's funny. And someone on YouTube said, "Where's the happy little trees?" They're coming. They're coming. Oh, I have a couple here and a couple here. Normally, I would build this out with a lot more, but you don't need to sit here and watch me sketch, right? And there are reference sketches in the event link in my website. If you go to my website and you go to events and you look at the event, it may be under past events since we've already started. I'm not sure if it's still under live events, but you can find the uh, outlines if you would like. There. Let's see. What can we do now? Let's do this little hillock right here. And so what happens as you go further out, everything becomes a little more misty, right? And lighter colors. So I'm going to do this hill right here as this beautiful lavender, lilac color. There we go. So I'm going to put lilac right here. Awesome. Beautiful color right out of the pan. And of course, it has a lot of white in it because you can see the color here in the pan. So you know that there's a lot of white in it. This sun is dry enough that I can come up next to it and not worry about the lilac bleeding into it. Okay. See, this number 6 brush holds tons of paint. Look at this. Look at this. It's still going. Tons of paint in there. That's those synthetic bristles, and it's beautiful. Okay, here we go. Let's put some, yeah. Nice. Right, because we're doing psychedelic landscapes, so we don't have to use your typical colors. That's the idea, is to think outside the box because anybody can look at a picture. Well, not anybody, but a lot of artists look at a landscape and then they paint the landscape that they see. And I'm like, no, 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 my brain's not like that. I'm actually quite a geek. I'm very technical. That's why last workshop I brought my computer out. And it was like, all right, I'm going to show you what I do on my computer to generate these AI images because I couldn't stand it anymore. I had to show you what to do on the computer. Yikes. Okay, so that was the lilac. And now we want another light color. Now, what are we going to do for the sky? The sky, the sky, the sky. I think we're going to do this one right here, the malachite. So what am I going to do over here for this one? I want something light as well. Let's look over here. What do we have? Ooh, we've got this cobalt green is pretty cool, but it's too close to that. So it needs to be something different, like this pea green right here. Ooh, I need to go watch that. Yeah. Yes, Isidora. Um, it can get a little boring because technical stuff can be boring, but I step you through everything that I do on Canva in order to generate AI images, and then how to download them to your computer and how to print them. So you get these two on one sheet. So to me, that's it's valuable information. It's just it can be a little boring. I think it's awesome, but I'm a total techie. My career before painting, you ready for it? Computer systems analyst. My clients were Microsoft and, oh, you're an engineer, Isadora says. Ah! So technical is my forte. Awesome. Yeah, let's see. I worked with a contractor that had Microsoft as a client, so I helped them with what they had to do in order to satisfy their contract with Microsoft. Actually, I was in a meeting with my client and the Microsoft folks. And one of the Microsoft people came to me after the meeting and they said, if they hadn't brought you in as a client, uh, they weren't going to have us as a client anymore. So they did the right thing by bringing you in. I'm like, oh, wonderful. That's great to hear. I'm so glad that, they were happy that it was like, oh my gosh, here's somebody that actually knows what they're talking about. Ah, yes. And then another one of my fun clients to work with was National Geographic Society. And my parents lived in Maryland, outside of Annapolis, and the other folks were up also. National Geographic Society was up in Maryland. So whenever I would go up there to see them as clients, I would try to arrange it so I could have the weekend to spend with my parents, and we would go into Annapolis or we would go into Baltimore. It was awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, yes, the folks at Microsoft valued my input. My client, I was familiar with the computer system they were working on. I was a consultant for the system, and my client, of whom Microsoft was a client, they were they were not as familiar with the system, number one. Number two, they didn't know how to work with contract programmers, but I love contract programmers. They are awesome people. I mean, they're the best. I love working with contract programmers because they're so brilliant, but the contract programmer needs somebody to be able to talk to the client who doesn't understand them because they're brilliant and they don't speak the same language. So I was the liaison, the in between there. Oh, these colors are so pretty. All right, let's go ahead and shall we put in the sky? Why don't we put in the sky? Because we should probably do this right here, and then we'll put in the sky so you can kind of see how the whole thing develops. What we need another light color for here. I'm trying to think what would be a good light color for there. I don't want to compete with this color right here. That's what's going to be in the sky. So it needs to be something that doesn't compete with that. Um, another, ooh, you know what? I think I'm going to do Potter's Pink because this is one of my favorite colors of the muted colors is potted pink. Hey, Laura Elizabeth, is that uh, Byerly? Welcome in, welcome in. I'm doing a workshop before my auction on Whatnot. And the workshop is about retro landscapes, mod landscapes from the 60s and 70s. And then we're using Japanese watercolors. These are Gansai Tambi watercolors to put the colors in. And I'm working on watercolor paper. So that's not a mod color, but you know what? For right now, I'm going with it because I don't want it to be too close to those pink fluffy clouds, but I still want it to be muted because it's in the background, right? And once you get your colors basically in, you can go back over top of it with other colors and kind of blend and mix. And so, no fuss, no muss, don't worry. Creating art should be a time of exploration. You're kind of exploring your own self, right? Your own psyche by creating art. And what inspires you color wise today may not inspire you tomorrow. Plus, you can get to the point where you go, you know what? I'm tired of this piece. How many of us do that? We're like, we're tired of this piece. I'm going to move on to something else. And then we have 50 million pieces in process. Okay, I'm going to raise my hand because I do that. I do that. Hey there, Dan, the breaking news man. Welcome in over on YouTube. So good to see you. It was great to have you in the stream on Thursday for color mixing. Yeah, Izzy Dora's raising her hand. She's like, yeah, me. I call it going to detention. Yeah, they go to detention. I can't, I have hundreds of paintings that are started that are not finished. So it's always so exciting when I finish a painting. Like this one was from, that piece is in detention, right? This was the gouache crab illustration from, it was synergized from what is it, the AI images and real crabs, and then I painted it in gouache, and so that was last week's workshop, and I actually finished it. What? Yeah, yours, Isidora says her items stay in detention indefinitely. See, so if later I go, I need to change those colors around, not a problem. I can either pull color out by just going in with water, or I can add more colors on top and sort of blend it right there. It's fine. It's fine. So let's pop in this like crazy, this one right here, malachite, they call it. And actually some of these mod psychedelic images that I pulled had this sort of malachite color in it. I just love it. So we're just going to go right along here. This paint is kind of creamy. The interesting thing is I like to say that these Gansai Tambi paints, to me, they feel like they're in between a gouache and a watercolor, the way they paint. Who'd have thought, right? But hey, these kind of watercolors have been around for a long time in Japan. Like I said, I have my mother's set here, this one, my mother's set, and that is it is probably 30 years old, if not older, per set. Still works just fine, exactly the same. Pick it up, add water, works just like the new ones. Isn't that amazing? Yes, Isidora said, congratulations on finishing. I have several more from other classes that are sitting out on my other table and they're not done yet. I'm like, oh, I have to finish them because I don't always finish the artwork during a workshop. My objective is to just show you techniques, introduce you to new paints, answer your questions, introduce you to new ways of painting, perhaps challenge you a little bit, share technical goodies with you. That's kind of my objective with these workshops, and not necessarily finishing a piece of artwork. You know, I could come on Whatnot and YouTube and just sit here for, 3 4 hours and finish an artwork, but that's not what I want to do. I want to share about painting and various techniques and have nice kiki chat with my friends, my art friends, and then offer some of my artworks for sale. So I do an auction after I get finished with the workshop part of the show. This is going to look amazing with these pink clouds and this sort of, what color would you call this? They call it malachite, but I call it like a tealy green, right? And a lot of these psychedelic images off of AI don't have like large areas of solid color. Instead, they would have you know, stripies and more clouds and more stuff in the background. But I kind of like to do more detail in the foreground and then make the background a little more simple myself. A, it's easier to paint, and B, it brings the attention to the front of the painting, or what would be the front, the closest to the viewer. Okay, cool. See, this is starting, I'm starting to get broken color. So here, similar to gouache, do you see the broken color right here? Because my brush was getting dry. And that's very similar to what you get with gouache. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I think that's still on camera, right? Yes, yes, it's on camera. Yay. So because I added a bunch of water to my brush right now, I'm seeing some of the paper texture and the color of the paper through the color over here in the corner. But that's okay because you can always come back and put a second coat on. I find with watercolor, I'm often leaving it to dry and then coming back and adding more coats or softening edges or doing things like that. Ah, that's looking very interesting, right? Right there. Let's see if I'm not going to put any on the rays here. Let me come over to this side and we'll put some over here and then it'll start to make the sky look like it's more complete, even though we haven't finished this other bit over here. All right, lovely, lovely. I just like to play with beautiful colors. Who else loves beautiful colors? You know, who wants to go to work? Who wants to eat lunch? Who wants to, you know, I'm like, I have to go to the bathroom, but no, no, I have to stay and finish what I'm working on. I don't want to go to the bathroom. I just want to play with color. There's a resonance, right? Colors resonate at different frequencies. So they're very, uh, they satisfy the soul with the way the colors resonate. All right, let's do this part here. Nice. See, if you've got the right sort of cream consistency, you know, like a heavy cream, then it doesn't splash off of your brush. It lets you place it where you want it to go. So that's sort of the consistency that you're looking for, is that heavy cream where, yeah, it's going to flow, but just like with gouache, you want that heavy cream consistency. Unless you just want to do colors that are less saturated and more bathroom send piece to detention. What is that? Oh, let me see. Oh, bathroom sends a piece to detention. Yeah, 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 yeah. You come back and you go, okay, I'm starting a new one, right? Ah, no, don't do it. I try, you know, I'm very much squirrel, right? Squirrel, where I see something else and I want to do that. That's why I do a weekly class and then I do all different kinds of art each each week because I have all the art supplies. I love color and all the forms of color, like oil pastels, soft pastels, gouache, these Japanese watercolors, the absolutely luscious Holbein and Winsor Newton watercolors that are just so pigmented and beautiful. So I have all of these incredible. I even have a whole complement of encaustic wax paints. Tell me if you know what encaustic wax paints are in the chat. Who knows what encaustic wax paints are and how old they are, you know, in terms of from antiquity. There we go. I'm watching. I'm watching to see if anybody says that they know what encaustic wax paints are. I went to New York to the factory where they make encaustic wax paints in New York, and took many, many classes and got certified as an advanced instructor in encaustic wax painting. So encaustic wax, I don't see any, not me. So I don't see anybody saying they know what it is. Encaustic wax is hot wax paint. So it's beeswax that's been imbued with pigments, these same pigments, right, that we use for all our other paints. It's they take the pigments and um, they mix it with wax, and it creates a hard bar. They put Damar resin, and which is used in oil painting as well, and varnishes. So they use this natural Damar resin from trees, and they put that together with beeswax and pigment, and that is what they make the encaustic wax paint out of. And so it's a solid bar when you get it, and you have to heat it. So I have a hot palette. So instead of just having a cold palette or a throwaway palette or a plastic palette or one of these for a palette, I actually have a hot palette. It has a hot plate underneath it. And when you heat up the plate, the beeswax paint, the encaustic paint goes liquid, and then you can paint with it in all kinds of wonderful ways. And the most famous encaustic wax paintings in the world are from the Fayum. I believe they're Greek, but they're famous, very old paintings, Fayum paintings, and it's encaustic wax paint. When somebody would die, they would paint that person's portrait on a wood panel, and then they would lay it on top of um, the deceased person. The deceased person would be wrapped, and then they would lay the wood panel on top of them with it, which would be an image painted in wax paint of the person who had passed. And the paint is so stable with being embedded in beeswax that it's, I believe they're over 1,000 years old, and they're super crisp color. And that's because the beeswax preserves the pigments. Isn't that amazing? Amazing. It's just amazing. Love working with encaustics. But you know what? Encaustics are hot. Encaustic paints are hot. And I live in Florida. So you can imagine that, like, now at winter time is the only time when I would want to paint with encaustics. And it's not something I share with the folks on YouTube and whatnot, because it's a very specific type of painting, and it's for people who are really hardcore, hardcore artists. I had a big studio in Fort Lauderdale before COVID, and a lot of people came from all around. They would drive for 2, 3 hours to come to my workshops to learn how to paint with encaustics. And but those are people who are like hardcore and want like the next type of paint that they've never painted with before. Okay, so there's the beginning of our sky. It looks like I didn't quite do that right, so let's fix that. There we go. Okay, so that's the idea for the sky area. Let's come down here. Now what you're going to notice is as the paint dries, it's evaporating, right? And so some of the pigments pull in like this. And what's going to happen is, where you did not have any white spots before, I don't know if you can see them, but there are little white spots right here. And that's because as the paint dries and evaporates, it shrinks. So sometimes you have to go back in with your paint, and like I can see a white spot here, and I can see white spots here along the edge. So after it's dry, you'll want to go back and uh, cover over those white spots. And that's why it's important if you're mixing color, like I mixed some colors here, you want to mix plenty of color and hang on to it until you're done with your painting, because there are going to be spots that are going to come up and they are going to no longer have paint on them. Like here, there's some white spots that appeared, and that's because of it drying and pulling away. So any paints that are water based, this can happen to. Ah, it's a little bit right there. So there we go. And that's why I said oftentimes I'll do this first layer and then I'll go back and I'll do a second layer, because when you do the second layer, it it fixes all those little issues or mistakes. It's here, there's actually a whole spot where it pulled away. I don't know if you can see that little white spot right there, just pulled away. That I trust me, it was covered. But now it's fixed. I fixed the little areas that were white. There we go. Now this is uh, your typical watercolor paint. So I'm going in with just water on my brush and I'm able to reactivate the paint and move it around. So that's a typical watercolor, allows you to re-wet it and move it. There's a little something something caught in there, a little bumpy of something. So there, that fixed that. All right, let's do, I'm going to do the mushroom down here. Why not? Why not? So we're going to come down here and I want to do this mushroom red. So over here, I have two reds, one that's a cranberry here, similar to this one, and one that is more red here. So I'm going to pull the one that's a little bit more red, and we're going to do a mushroom with the red. There we go. So let's do the mushroom here. And with this one, I'm going to put some dots of water on it after I've put the main color on. So you can see what I mean about how you can re-wet it and pull some of the color out to get the spots. I wanted to show you that. Come around here. So I am not a realist painter. I'm more of an impressionist and fantasy type painting, meaning it's more, my images are going to look a little more flat because I'm not really fussed about realism and getting all of the shadows. I'll put in a few shadows, but I'm not really fussed too much about getting the shadows just right or anything. To me, I can appreciate realism. Wow, it's amazing. However, I also know that I can take a picture of something or look at a picture of something and have an image of it. But when it comes to a painter, that's different, right? Painters, you're paying for their interpretation of what it is that the scene is. So I prefer paintings that are a little more, like out out there. Okay, I have some of these colors that I mixed earlier. I'm going to take some of that red and put it in with that sort of orangey color to knock it down just a little bit. And then I'm going to do these. So they're not quite so bright as the big one. There we go. We got this one here in the background. And then I'll add just a little more red. Wow, that red exploded onto there. What if I put a little bit of this yellow ochre in with it? Yeah, okay, that makes it a little more orangey. More orangey, that's kind of what I was looking for, was something just a little more orange. So these little trays, it's called a butcher tray, because when a butcher is cutting meat, they have these trays, these enamel trays that they throw the bits in, but they're fantastic for artists as well. Love them. I've had a butcher tray for forever. Okay, there we go. I'm actually going to add a little bit more, just a little bit more of this onto here because it's not quite dark enough for me. Okay, there we go. So we have a couple of mushrooms on there. And now this red one has already begun to dry. The crab came out awesome. Thank you, Brandy Beach. I appreciate it. Yeah, I enjoyed that, finishing that up. I was very excited. I've been wanting to paint a crab for a long time. So I was like, oh, I have to do that. Okay, so I'm going to take my brush, or if you're not comfortable doing off the end of a big brush, if you're afraid you're going to have too much water, you can use a detail brush like this. So I'm picking up some water, just have a little bit on the end, and I'm going to just drop some water drops on this red. And that will allow me to pick up some of that color. Because it's watercolor, it reactivates. So even though it's dry to the touch right now, I'll be able to pick up the color and then we'll have these little spots on it. They're so much fun. Love that. Hey there, Phoenix Blue. Welcome in. Welcome in. I was saying earlier that I love this because the way you can put your brushes on there like that to hold them while you're painting. Fabulous. Okay, so I'm letting that set for just a second, just a moment, let it kind of soak in. It's reactivating the red paint under there. And then this one already has paint color on it. And if I touch it onto here, it can transfer some of that color back onto the paper. So I'm going to take a brand new piece of paper towel and I'm going to fold it in half. And then I'm going to set it on top like this. Spots. Love it. See, there are the spots there. So let me bring that up more closely to you. See the spots? Spots. Oh my gosh. Now, if they're not bright enough for you, then of course you can come back in with the Copic opaque white, or you can come in with the white pen after it's fully dry. Don't try to use these pens on it while it's still damp. They won't work. You have to wait till the surface is fully dry. I usually wait till the next day to go in and do all that detail stuff. Um, but I love those. Isn't that cool? I love the way the little dots come up. So now, of course, I'm going to have to do dots on here. Ah! That one was too big. So I'm going to use the end of the paper towel and I'm going to pull some of that up because it was a little bit large. There we go. Some small spots there and some small spots on this one. But that's the way you can get those light dots, is once the paint's down and dry, just use a little tiny brush, put a few spots on it, and then pull the color out. It's awesome. Okay, so what can we do next? I'm thinking we will do some of the road here. And I like where these images showed various colors here. Eek, let me move that out of the way. You see how the front has various colors, so it kind of attracts your eye, right? So there's a purple and there's the blue green again. Let's go ahead and want purple. Definitely want purple. So this is the transparent purple. Remember I was telling you about that? This is dark, so it's a transparent purple. This is opaque, has lots of water in it. So let's take this purple. See how bright that color is? Well, I don't want to cover this too much. I just want a thin, so I'm adding more water. That's why I have it in this little dish. I don't want it to be quite so like crazy bright. There we go. If I put it on a little more thickly, it would be very dark. And I didn't want it to be dark. It's with watercolor, it's easier to build up the darkness. So start with a light coat, and you can always come back and add in the dark, okay? But at least you'll be like, do I like the purple there, or do I want to totally change the color? How would you change the color if you decided you didn't like the purple? You would just put a bunch of water on it, get a clean paper towel, lift as much of it out as you can, let it dry, and then put another color over it. That usually works. Okay, there we go. Nice. So we got purple going. And then next to the purple, what else do we have in the images, in the picture? So we've got some purple, some blue, some green. We have yellow. Now, last week I talked about a color wheel. And so here's my color wheel. And oftentimes when I'm wondering, what do I put next to another color? The purple, or if there's a color, the color opposite on the color wheel generally means they look nice next to each other. Don't mix them together, because if we take yellow and we mix it with violet, we get like a muddy mousy color. I explained about that last week with the color calculator here. Um, but they look nice next to each other, so colors opposite. So I can put a yellow in here and it'll look nice next to the purple. So let's take, I'm going to start with the citron, which is the lemon yellow. I'm being very careful right now not to touch the purple, because let me show you, where's another piece of paper I can do that on? Hold on. So here's just a piece of paper I had to cut off. So I saved these little cutoffs. So let's take a little bit of yellow just so you can see what happens. All right. So I've got some yellow here, right? And then let me get another little brush. So I have the yellow and I'm going to mix some of the purple in it and you'll see what happens. You get like a horrible brown color, which is okay if you're doing skin tones. It makes beautiful skin tones, putting the yellow and the purple together. But can you see that in there? It's brown, y'all. Last on Thursday, Daydreamer Debbie called it poopy brown. Yes, it can look like that. Oh my gosh. So you don't want the two touching each other because you don't want them to blend on their own and make brown. But I'm being careful with my strokes not to have them touch each other right now. So normally I would let the purple dry and then come in and put the yellow, and then you're not as likely to get them to blend. But, you know, I'm living dangerously right now with you watching. There we go. So that does look nice when you put it on very thickly. Cool. And then now the opposite of yellow, of course, on the color wheel is purple, and we've already done yellow and purple. So we have to come up with another color that'll look nice next to the yellow. And so what you might try is a color in the same color family. So this side of the color wheel here, so we've got our yellow, right? There, you can sort of cut right down here, this part from yellow to the violet. There's a black, you see that black line? So kind of right there, these are the warm colors and these are the cool colors. So here's a yellow, any of these other, and there's the violet, right? Over there, the red violet, they're next to each other. They look good. But I can go yellow, orange, orange, red, orange, red. Any of those are in the same family as yellow. They actually have yellow in them up to here. So I can take any of those warm colors and put them next to it and it'll look good. They'll be in the same color family. So let's choose one of those. I love the vermilion, which is, vermilion is kind of an orangey red, and that's this one right here. So let's take the vermilion and put that next to it. So we're going to put that here next to this one. And if these two blend, not as much of a big deal because they're essentially next to each other on the color wheel. So they'll be fine. They'll be fine if they accidentally blend together. So let's put the vermilion here. Looks good next to it. This is you're getting an insider's peek at how I choose my colors when I'm painting, right? Okay, there we go. Nice. Now I can see this vermilion is not as deeply orange as I want it to be, but that just means I need to put a second coat on when it dries. But it's starting to look good, starting to look good, starting to look good. And if you want to do exactly the color combination that's on your reference, knock yourself out. Right here, the picture, right? If you wanted to follow along with this picture and do that, or do this combination, why not? Because we didn't take this entire picture and we're not duplicating this picture. So if you like this, just duplicate it. It's fine. It's fine. Now, what's the opposite of orange on the color wheel? Hey, does anybody know? Opposite of orange, opposite of orange. Let's look at the color wheel. Oh, see, this is my pocket color wheel, the little 5-incher that I take in my purse usually. I was wondering where that was. Now I know where it is. I can put it in my purse. Because, who's an artist if they don't have a color wheel in their purse, right? A true artist. Okay, orange. What's opposite of orange on the color wheel? Blue. So the next color I want to put on there is some form of blue. Yes. So let's see, what would be a good blue on there? I love, love, love. I love these blues over here in this Art Deco kit. Light one, dark one, light one, dark one. Oh, I think I'll do the cobalt teal, cobalt turquoise light. This is called cobalt turquoise light. Beautiful. You can tell there's a lot of white in it because you can tell what the color is. It's not dark like this, which is more transparent. So this has a bunch of white in it. Oh, nice. Nice, 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 nice. Now again, it's opposite the orange on the color wheel, so you don't want it to blend. You don't want the two colors to blend together because otherwise you're going to get what? A mousy, browny, ugly color or a muted color. There we go. Like I said, this is first coat. Do not worry about getting everything perfect on the first coat because you're going to make changes. You're going to reevaluate once you got your first coat colors down. Do you want to deepen them? Do you want to lighten them? So you may want to come right on top of them with a lighter version or a darker version. Sometimes I'll put the main color in and then I'll come just on the edge and put either a lighter color or a darker color. So you can make those decisions later and see how I'm turning it. So often I will turn it on its side in order to get a better angle for me to do this. But you see how much paint this brush holds? It's still going, 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 going. What? Crazy. Crazy good. Lots and lots and lots of color. There we go. Almost done, almost done. Now, why don't I want this color and the yellow to blend? Because this blue and yellow would make green. And I don't want green. I want turquoise. I'm going to come back this way here. Nice. Love that snappy tip. The tip allows me to get into those little corners. Now, a lot of the color is gone, so I need to pick up just a little bit more color in order to run it along that. Ooh, picked up a lot of color. Not a little bit. There we go. Okay, cool. So I think you're beginning to see the image take shape now. Do that. You're beginning to see the image take shape and the colors Oh, I never did take the water off of those. That's okay. I can always go back and do it later. Let me do that on that one. A few little spots came up, that one. But I forgot, and most of the water dried. So I can always come back in with another brush, put a few drops of water, wait a minute for them to rehydrate, and then go back in and pull it out again. Okay, so we're actually going to go to the other painting because this was to show you the basics of adding that first coat and some of the tricks that you can do with the first coat. Now I've got another painting that I was painting earlier today that already has most of the color on it. Okay, so let's put that one aside and get the other one right here. Ta-da! So this one I was working on earlier, and it has, I put lots of water here, and that was with the pale aqua, this horizon blue, and then the cobalt teal. So there are actually three colors here in the background, and I allowed them to, with lots of water. So let me bring that up closer to you. You Do you see how when you put a lot of water in there, it blooms? So these little fuzzy edges are called blooms. Some people like that, some people don't like that. That's, it's up to your personal preference whether you like the blooms or not. And if you don't like the blooms, just put the paint on thicker, or I could come back in now with another coat of paint and refine that, change it if that's what I wanted. And then here I actually did an ombre. So I was using the violet or the lilac, this lilac color right here. And then as it came down here, I put a layer of lilac, and then I came back to get the ombre by picking up some of that purple and then dropping it in and feathering it up so that I get an ombre effect right there. You can see that one. And then let's see what else. I have my little mushrooms here. These are little trees. They look like little flames, don't they? But they are little trees. And I put one layer of orange, and then I came back and I added another little layer of orange. And then I came back and I added a third layer of orange. So you can see some variety within the oranges there, um, with these, and it was essentially the same color, but when you layer the same color, when you give it multiple layers, what you're going to end up with is the colors darkening. Okay, that's why with watercolor, you start with a lighter color and then you add darker colors generally to it. So let's do some more of this one. I've saved some of the mountains back here for us to do together. I like these unusual trees that just have this teardrop shape that came with some of the images. Let me see if I can find one of the images that had that. It was one of the original images. Yeah, this one. You see the simple little teardrop shape? And I actually put a darker color in the middle and then put the lighter color around the outside. You could do the opposite. You could put the lighter color in the middle and the darker color around the outside. And that's what I did with these right here. Was I did the lighter color in the middle, and then I came back later and put the darker color around the outside to kind of give it more definition. And those were fashioned after these trees right here. So I'm taking little bits from different ones and creating the imagery. I really loved up here. Which one was it? Let me find that one. In the sky where it had those loopties like that. Let me find that one. Not that one. Okay. Oh, so many. I have a notebook that I put the sheets in so that I can keep track of all of these reference images because I just bounce around to so many of them that I need to somehow keep them at hand and yet organized, right? So here is this one right here. You see the mountain, the way it comes up like that, and the way the sky is like all loopy. So that's why I got the mountain here and the loopy sky up here. And then from this one, I got the trees. Isn't that cool? So you can just pull from different images. Like I said, get your reference images and then synergize them into a design that you want to make. So let's see what else we can put here with the mountain. We've already got blue. Let's see. So this malachite, the malachite, I don't know. Maybe one of these, this alizarin crimson might look good there. And that one. So we'll just see how big those pans are. But the pans are huge, but they are not all the way full. Let me see if I can pull one out for you. They're easier here. So they're not full to the brim. If you look on the bottom, there's a lip here. So it comes up from the bottom. And there's a lot of area here that's not full. So you think there's a lot more paint in there than there is. You will get to the bottom of it. You will. Now it's coming, the brush is too dry. You can see here the broken color where you can see the color, you can see the paper through it. So I have to add a little bit of water and then I tap the excess water off and then I go back to it and now it's flowing the correct way. That's how it's done. Okay. Oh, what a pretty color. That one is called alizarin. They call it alizarin crimson, but it's the Gansai Tambi alizarin crimson because if you're a watercolorist, this doesn't look anything like the regular watercolor alizarin crimson, does it? Which is much more, wow, much more concentrated red if you're looking at regular watercolor. Now, another thing I want to mention about these, it does not tell you anything about light fastness with these paints. And so I like to use them and then take a picture of the artwork and then sell the print because I have no idea how long the colors are going to stay true. It's more, I feel like they're more for illustration, the colors, because they don't give us any light fastness information unless you're aware and you can, put it in the comments for us what the light fastness is of these Gansai Tambi paints. I don't know what the light fastness is, so I would not trust the paints to stay light fast for a long time for a client. If I were to, I can still sell this artwork, but you run the risk of them coming back 3 years later and saying, that painting I bought from you, it doesn't look like it's supposed to anymore. And then you go, oopsies, sorry. That is not a good feeling. Now we have green right here coming up into this area. What's the opposite of green on the color wheel is red. So we might want to use some sort of like the vermilion orange here to go in this area. Let's try that one. Vermilion, which is an orange red, right? So, and it's in the same color family as this crimson. So they'll look nice next to each other. They won't fight each other. I would have liked to have put a green there, but I don't want to put green next to another green like that. That's what I was avoiding. Oh, this color is nice and bright. Fabulous. It's good to do your sketch ahead of time because you see how the tree juts up into that area. So I've got to paint so that I go around the tree like that. There we go. And that's why you need a brush that has good control. So that for this kind of painting, if you're following along with lines, where I totally went over the lines over here, but I'll make it work. Okay. So there is the tree, and I'm gonna go around the tree. Now I could have painted the mountain first and then painted the tree into the shape that was left, but I was excited to get the trees in. So you have to do what excites you with painting, in order to have the motivation to keep going, right? Now I just with a flick of my brush, I got a little bit of paint in the tree, but if you're quick and this paint is dry, you can just use your finger to flick it off, and that's what I did. Flicked it off. Okay, what do we want to put in here? I think yellow. I think yellow will look nice in there. So can you see this one? Nope, you can't. So let's bring this here. And I'll see this one right here. This one's a little farther along. So we're just going to put yellow in here. It's blending with the orange, which is okay because yellow and orange are next to each other on the color wheel. So it's all right if the orange blends in with the yellow a little bit. That'd be kind of fun for something different. Let's see here. Okay, cool. It's what I can do is sort of encourage the blending, and then by encouraging the blending, there's less of a notice. Now I can come back in here later and pretty that line up if I want to, not a problem. Okay, there we go. Hello, hello over on YouTube. Nice painting. Thank you, Anma. Appreciate it, appreciate it. So what else do we want to do here? So it's just a matter of like trying to do areas. Oftentimes I'll do, for instance, this area, then I'll avoid this area, and then I'll come over and do this area, and then I'll avoid this area, and then I'll come do this one. And I'm doing that. Let me show you up close better. So if this is dry, I would do this area, but then I would skip this area. There's a line here. So I would skip this area so that I don't get the bleeding like I got here. And then I would paint this area right here. And then I would skip this one and I would come down here and I would paint that section. And then I would skip this one and then I would paint this section. So as I'm building my rings and my different areas, if I don't want it to blend right on the surface, do you see that one blending right on the surface right there? Because the orange was wet when I touched it with the yellow. So now I have my cloth here and I'm lifting up some of that orange and wiping it off onto the cloth. So I'm getting rid of some of that orange after I left it for a minute. So things began to set up and dry. There we go. And now what you're going to see is you see the lighter yellow because I picked up the orange out of there with a dry brush. You see that? So I didn't completely get all the orange out of the yellow. Almost. Let's see here. There. I think I got most of the orange out of the yellow right there. So I have more of a line. So you can go back later and adjust and play with it. This one, the little moon that's here, I put one color in. I put that deep orange in. Now I want to put like a yellow on top of it so that the outside glows with a darker orange. And so I'm going to use this yellow, but I'm going to add a little bit of white to it. So this kind of has my red, yellow, oranges in it for mixes. So there's my yellow. And then I'm going to come over here to my white. So here's my white. See how my white is getting dirty, but it's okay. I don't mind that. because I can just wipe it off. And I actually need to order another white because you should always have two whites on hand. Okay, so now I have a lighter version of yellow because it has white in it. So let's take that because if I didn't have the white in it, it would just reactivate the orange underneath, and then I would end up just with a lighter version of orange. I don't want that. I want kind of I want the orange to be glowing outside of sort of a yellowish interior. So now let's sort of put the yellow in there, which right now doesn't look very yellow. Let's see here. Like that. I could have done this later after it was dry with one of the markers I showed you. I could have just gone on it with a marker, but I kind of like the effect of the watercolor on top. There you go. So there, now we've got once that dries, it may change in color and I can go back over it with another layer. So in that way, where you can, if you have white in it, if you've used the white, you can, it almost acts like a gouache so that you can build the layers up, which is kind of cool, right? It's cool. Now this one over here, I made it to look like a Saturn with a ring around it. And what I'll end up doing is later I'll bring my markers. Why don't we do it right now? Let's just go ahead and make the ring around the Saturn. What color do I want to use? I think I'll start with white because that's all dry. Okay. I'm not going to paint any more of the rest of the painting because, then we'd be here all night. We don't need that. Ah, so let's go ahead and we'll use this it is a Uniball Signo broad pen. But like I said, in the YouTube video in the description, I will be linking these. And I need to get this ball started because otherwise it's not going to come out. I find if you start it on your artwork, it's very frustrating. But if you start it on another piece of paper or your hand gives a little bit, so it's easy to start it on your hand, then I'm going to make this look like a little Saturn. I'm going to add this because the color is really dark, right? And I'm adding a little bit at a time because what happens is the ink in here will reactivate the paint and then you'll end up with it just reactivating and that's kind of annoying. So I'm doing it a little bit at a time. You can even do it as dots. But okay, I got a little ring right there of the white. Trying to get it to dry. And you can also do that and get if any paint got left on there, you want to get the paint off before you put it away. Okay, and I want some gold, don't I? Gold, love the gold. So let's take the gold, right? How can you tell an artist when they're out somewhere? You're like, let me see your hand. Let me see your shirt because there's always paint all over. Okay, so let's take the gold because gold always looks good on purple, right? And so I'm going to go around like this with the gold around the outside. Why not? There you go. So now we have something that looks more like a Saturn, right? Right there. Oh, so fun with the gold and the white. But when you're using pens like this to work back into your artwork, oh my gosh, I mean, it may never be done, right? Because you may be like, oh, I want to put a little more here and a little more there, and I wanted to find this and I wanted to find that, and woof, you can just keep going back and forth and back and forth. But the other kind of pen that I like to use is the Micron pen. So this is by Sakura. Can you see the little cherry blossom there? Logo. So it's the Sakura logo, and then it's the Pigma Micron pen. This is archival black ink. but it also comes in all different kind of colors. So here, for instance, is a green one. See the green on here. And here's a purple one. So there's one with purple. You can tell by the end here. They try to put the color on the tops as well, but it's really easier to see them from the back end, what the color is. So you can purchase a set that is a set of all the colors in one nib size. These are the O5s. Um, or like these black ones, I get in a set and it has all different nib sizes. This is what a nib is right here. So this is an O1 nib. And then, for instance, this is an O8 nib. So you see this O8 nib is much larger, right? And these are both black. So sometimes I like to just, for a graphic effect, I like to go back in and just go over top of the lines. And then that gives the artwork after you've painted it with the watercolor a more graphic look. And it also gets rid of the lines if you don't like the lines. Like right now, you can see the lines here. So you can see the lines underneath this paint right here. You can see the lines underneath here, right? And if you don't like that, just grab yourself a micron pen and go to town. Let's see what this green looks like. And maybe I'll put some of this green on the, along there. Let me see, let me see. See, this one's almost dry. Ah, I need to get a new one. That's what I thought. That's what I thought. I think there's another green in here of some sort. Here is this is an interesting Le Pen. Let's see what the Le Pen looks like. It's not going to cover it. It's more, the Le Pen is more transparent. So that's not going to cover it. Okay, I don't have another green one here that'll cover it. Darn. Oh, maybe this one will. This is a Copic, right? Yeah, Copic multi-liner. Let's see how this one looks. Ah, there's a nice green line. There's a nice green line there. Okay, this is a permanent marker also from Copic. So then I would come in here and I would just go right over top of this. I would just follow along here. Doop, and, outline it with my colored permanent markers if I want to. And that would just give it a little more interest. And I could hide some of those, for instance, some of those areas that are white right here. Oh, cover the white right up. Make sure your painting is all the way dry when you do this, okay? Don't do it unless it's dry. There we go. I'll show you in a second. So so now I've got a line starting where I can define that line a little bit better and it covers up the pencil mark. So some people like to do that. All right, that is the end of the workshop. I hope you enjoyed it. I will be finishing this artwork this week. So watch my social media for it. My Instagram here is at Dietz Art. It's like the word diet with a Z on the end of it. Dietz art. Oh, thank you, Flower Gazer. Said enjoyed very much. Yeah, and I didn't come up with a plan for a giveaway this week. So um, we don't have a giveaway at the end of the workshop this week. But maybe next week when I finish this and it's all, prettied up, then maybe I'll have a card for next week. That's one of these fun um, mixed media kind of psychedelic artworks. And then also you can watch my website, Dietz Art, last week's workshop. I ordered those Japanese watercolors. Oh, tomorrow. Nice. Fantastic. Yeah, you can always go to my website here, dietzart.com. And I do have links to most of these paints on my website as well. And they go to other, the links will go to other websites that are art supply houses that carry the paints as well. So you can always find that on my website. Woohoo. Thank you. Thank you, Flower Gazer. Yeah, these Japanese watercolors are so pretty. Actually, this set, which is the um, Art Deco set. It's called set number 2 from Kuretake, which is Kuretake, I believe. Kuretake has multiple sets, and so they have their one set of 24, set number 1, that's their primary set, and then this is set number 2, which is their Art Deco set. So a lot of the colors in here are more muted than their primary set, which has colors more like this in it. Um, this was my mom's from way, way, way long ago. But I'm gonna have fun finishing up these artworks for sure. And oh my gosh, yeah, I'll have to put the link. These are not available where you might think they are. I have to put the link to the company that makes them and St. Louis Art Supply where I get these. So I'll be putting that link in the um, notes of the YouTube video when I edit the YouTube video tonight.